What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. The wait's almost over. GTA 6 should have a pretty big reveal tomorrow, but wouldn't you know it, it seems like just ahead of that, a pretty big feature may have leaked online early, but we'll take a look at that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Valve, who has sort of explained the reality of creating the Steam machine in the current climates, and it doesn't look good. Also, we have Sony, who seems to be continuing their battle against shovelware titles, this time removing another, 900 or so games, with the developer even kind of responding to the whole thing, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over the world of gaming, keep you up to date. So just know, even if you don't get a notification in the morning, there's probably a video here to check out. And we're going to start today with a major press release coming out of GameStop that has to do with those pesky stickers that they put all over the cases when you go into the store to check out, especially used titles. This we can see, though, over on their social media accounts. And GameStop today announced the end of the company's hard-to-remove price stickers. Notorious to regular customers and game collectors alike, it's effective immediately, and they have newly engineered state-of-the-art easy peel stickers, which means, according to them, easier lift at the corner, cleaner removal from cases and packaging, less adhesive residue, and apparently people are using a penny as a removal tool. I think most people just use like their fingernail to try to get under the corner, rip the sticker up, and then realize, oh, half of it is staying put. And then it's a whole thing. Like, the residue doesn't come off the case. The most annoying thing is when they were sticking it to the cover art. I don't know if any of you guys came across this. I did many times, where it seemed like they took the cover art out of it, the plastic sleeve, and then would put the sticker right on the cover art, on the spine especially. That was the worst. At least this is something, though, to make it a little easier to remove those stickers. Right at the end, just about, it seems like anyway, when it comes to physical media, but I guess better late than never. Also, it looks like we have a game that's being delayed out of 2026. That's Lords of the Fallen 2. We can see this for the CEO at the company, saying Lords of the Fallen 2 development update. It'll now be set for a Q1 2027 release window. It does go on to just talk about how this will give them meaningful opportunities to further refine and strengthen the overall experience, and these enhancements will benefit from additional integration, iteration, and polishing time, which is great, right? You take more time to ensure that the product is up to a certain standard for its day one release. But also, I mean, we've talked about this multiple times now. There's a lot of stuff coming out in September and October, and how many people want to release in November, right near GTA 6, we can't all be Godzilla. You know what I mean? So this actually makes a ton of sense. I would say take advantage of that Q1 time period, maybe somewhere in, say, February, and then release Lords of the Fallen 2. But I just think this is going to be a trend pretty consistently here, especially over the next couple of months, as we see some shuffling of the deck when it comes to releases. Some we already know about, but others maybe that still don't have release dates that do end up in 2027. Oh, and Rhythm Heaven Groove is out next week on July 2nd. But a demo is now live, and we can see this. Now, it was first revealed over on Nintendo today with the application, specifically on mobile phones, though they had a bit more of a description, where it reads, the Rhythm Heaven Groove starter demo is now available. Try out rhythm games like the single-player Hoop Trundling and the multiplayer Rhythm Tweezers, and have fun getting into the groove. We hope you give the demo a try. I mean, it is nice to have a demo for this, but it's a rhythm game, so you kind of get the idea, but it's sort of the quirkiness to the game. I mean, it's just a strange game in general when you see some of the ideas that they have to then add rhythm to it. But because it's like fun, like pick up and play parts of it, it's pretty interesting to go through. But I've never really gotten into the Rhythm Heaven games, but at least there's a demo out there that you can try it if you were curious after seeing it over the course of now numerous directs. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with GTA 6. We're setting up for a big reveal tomorrow, obviously the price, but we're also expecting a new trailer and probably a bunch of additional details, especially on the technical side, because you feel like a lot of these storefronts are going to populate with all kinds of information, and that does include things like frequently asked questions or just other details, maybe even around file size and others. but it seems like maybe one part went live early. At least that's the word going around right now, as it seems that at least some of the different graphical modes were shown early. Now, okay, we'll just take a look here. This is over on Media Market, and this had to be translated over from Polish into English, so again, Google Translate and stuff, you can have some context that's missing, but the overall message is at least clear with what they're trying to convey. The question was, will it be taking advantage of, I mean, they still say next-gen systems. Here we are in, year 6 of the current generation, calling it next-gen, but like current gen, you know, with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series. And it says the answer, by purchasing the console version, you can be sure you're getting a product refined down to the smallest detail. GTA 6 on next-gen consoles offers 2 graphical modes to choose from, performance and quality. The use of the DualSense controller for realistic haptic feedback and lightning-fast loading screens, thanks to the power of SSDs. And this obviously blew up online. I mean, it's GTA 6, and we're like 24 hours or so now from the big reveal, again, price and other details, new trailer. But this, I think, caught a lot of interest because it kind of goes against what we've seen out of Rockstar and Take-Two for, I don't know, the last several GTA releases. And I say several, we only have so many since, GTA 5 came out on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. But if you go back to when it first released, performance wasn't exactly great. It wasn't even good. It was kind of bad, actually. Like, if you go back and see some of the frame rate comparisons then, we were dealing with a GTA 5 release that was like in the 20s for frame rate. I mean, really now we look around and go, does this have a performance mode? Because I want 60 frames per second. Kind of take that for granted compared to what we were dealing with, especially during that 360 and PS3 era, even during the PS4 and the Xbox One era to a degree. I think this current generation is when we more or less have just expected almost every time for a 60 FPS mode, right? So GTA 6 kind of releasing in a different climate than GTA 5, certainly even GTA 4, as that was an earlier kind of Xbox 360 generation release. So with GTA 6 coming out when everyone's asking for performance modes, it would be kind of strange if they did not have any of that. But also, on the other hand, it's Rockstar, and it would sort of line up with what they've always done, considering we still have a Red Dead Redemption 2 that is 30 FPS on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series. It's been rumored for a while that there is some sort of next generation PS5 or Xbox Series generation update that would uncap the frame rate and I guess have the resolution be much, I'd say a good bit higher than what we had with, say, the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. But here's, I guess, some cold water or the wet blanket for the excitement around what's being said here. This is an online retailer, and some have already kind of speculated is this like AI generated description and Q&A, as that is actually becoming more and more common for some of these different online storefronts, that they will just have a lot of the stuff there generated on the page, just have it set up for placeholders or whatever else, you know? So especially with so many different products that are out there, it would Take-Two and Rockstar, who are very, very secretive, all of a sudden just start sending this kind of stuff out early to online retailers, and then they post it and it's still up. I don't know about all that. At this time, I'm kind of expecting there to not be a 60 FPS mode unless it is legitimately just for the PlayStation 5 Pro, mostly because I think this is a game that will challenge the CPUs that are in the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series, and maybe next generation with the PlayStation 6 and this Xbox Helix, and then of course that PC release, we do see a frame rate that hits above 30 in like the 60s or so, and it's a way for them to, you guess it, re-release it all over again, because that's something they have done time and time again with GTA 5. Why wouldn't they do it with GTA 6? Next up, let's talk about the Steam machine that, of course, has been the big talk of the town this entire week now since its price release, and it has not been great for Valve. They've certainly been going through it with a system that shows up with no controller, 512 gigabytes of storage, and it's $1,049. People have been building, or at least showing builds for PCs that you can just make, and it's cheaper and more capable. And now that Valve has just put out the Steam OS, their 3.8 update, you can download and put SteamOS just as it is on the Steam machine on an AMD build. In fact, I actually did that, and it was on a pretty cheap machine. I was shocked that it booted up. Had to jump through some hoops, but I might do a video on that because it's actually not a bad little indie machine. So maybe that's something for this weekend. We'll see. But there were some questions, of course, around how exactly this work out when it comes to RAM manufacturers. As we know right now, that is we'll say big bottleneck when it comes to price point. We see it ourselves from a consumer side. How did that work out with Valve when they were going to try to source some of these parts? Gamers Nexus did have a chance to sit down with some of the Valve engineers and employees, and we can see this transcribed over on Kotaku, where they say, look, there's no contracts. There's nothing. Like, those guys, they give us a price every month or something, and they say, you can buy that many, and it's yes or no. And if we say no, then they never talk to us again, as in Valve is indeed a nobody when it comes to procuring RAM in large quantities. I say large quantities. I mean, look, they don't work on the scale of economy that we see from Microsoft, Nintendo, certainly not Sony, who is coming up on 100 million PlayStation 5 systems. They are working more in the thousands range, okay? So when the Steam machine goes up for sale, it's going to sell out because they probably have so many thousands of systems that they have set up for release. It's not going to be millions, all right? So with that in mind, when they go to these RAM manufacturers, they're like, hey, we need, or they come to them and they just say, this is what we have, take it or leave it. Because let's face it, there are many, as we know right now, companies that are trying to build data centers, these big AI companies, and they're buying these things by the sheet, by the wafer, before they even get out into consumer form with, say, RAM sticks. So with that in mind, and we see with the iPhone is going up in price because even Apple is at like the mercy of these manufacturers when it comes to DRAM. What chance does Valve have? So it's unfortunate because the timing for the Steam machine, it's actually incredible. Couldn't be worse. Like, this is actually like the worst point in time. And it's pretty clear they were holding out. I think this thing was supposed to have been out months ago. And here they are now in end of June. Like, we're either going to cancel it or we're going to put it out at this price point that we can technically, break even or turn a small profit on. And that's it. Now, the question arose, should they have locked it down to Steam? Like, there is no Windows loading, there's no desktop mode, you're in Steam and that's it. Like, they'll lock down the firmware, the chipset, everything. And then they just subsidize through the Steam store and they release it at $750 like they wanted to before, or $800. Would that have been a better move? And people are kind of back and forth on this. I guess from the approachability angle, if you are buying a Steam machine, I don't know how many people are buying it to load Windows necessarily. I think people who buy it are already completely bought in to the Steam ecosystem and they just want to use it in the living room as an extension of their really nice swanky gaming PC that they have in their office, right? So I feel like Valve could have gotten away with that for the most part. There would have been people who have been like, why'd they lock it down? But the idea of it being an open platform or just being a PC first and foremost is the approach Valve wanted to go with, which means they are not subsidizing it, even though, yeah, people are probably going to buy it and just go straight forward with mostly using Steam, right? But some people will go into desktop mode, download emulators, ROMs, pirate stuff, load Windows, go crazy, and they're able to. So it's an interesting back and forth there as to which approach would have been better. But honestly, if they had released it like a year and a half ago or something, and they're able to get, at this point then, hardware that would have also felt more current at a better price, yeah, that'd have been great. But hey, hindsight's 2020. Next up, let's talk about Sony as they continue to target shovelware, or just low-quality games that you see, and it looks like this company has flipped the same game over and over and over again, and then you turn around and somehow they have 100 some odd games in the last year on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, PC. It's like, how do they find the time to do that? Well, when you have AI helping, you can do all kinds of stuff, right? But in this case, seems like Sony's, they've had enough of this, and it's been something that's consistently been happening where they are identifying certain developers who are releasing an incredible amount of games that all look the same, and then they just kind of pull those library of titles down. And the most recent one we can see, now this is over on Push Square, who pointed this out, Afield Games, the purveyor of low-effort software like Collie Call and Cute Bonfire, has confirmed that PlayStation has been implementing stricter guidelines for publishing games on its platform. In a statement, the Brazil-based studio said these new policies mean its future releases will no longer be available on the PS5. Furthermore, all of its previous titles, of which there are over 900, will be removed from the PlayStation Store in due course. I mean, you look up some of these studios, they've been around for a few years. And like this one in particular, 900 titles in a few years? Like what? How can you do that? But then you look at the titles. Okay, so here's Collie Call, all right? Kind of this top-down, I don't know, grid-based sort of game. And then here's Cute Bonfire, which looks very much the same. It's just some assets kind of moved around, and you start to put two and two together and go, okay, well, yeah, obviously that then looks like shovelware. And if you have 900 of those games, sure, they're $5 each, but really they're going to work to kind of clog up the PlayStation Store, and it just looks bad then. You know, and it does make discoverability much, much more difficult. Now you can have a whole rating system. You can have people tag these games and try to push them to the bottom of the algorithm, but most likely they will still pop up here and there. And for Sony, it's kind of just more like housekeeping in general. And eventually, with how the current AI revolution is ongoing, you're probably going to see more and more AI games just get thrown out there at like hundreds of games per clip per day. And if you're Sony, you do have to kind of pay attention and go, okay, we don't need 2,000 of these games to show up every few hours. Then there's a problem. So it's kind of like, let's just set the standard now to try to avoid that in the future. But even that is probably wishful thinking. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. As previews went live, there's also some new gameplay that was thrown around out there. We can start here. Now, IGN did, again, have a preview on this, and it seems like you can play as an Earthling or a Saiyan. They have these big ultimate attacks. There's one where it's like a big Kamea wave, and it just knocked out a ton of enemies. I saw some mentioning that it doesn't necessarily knock down like an energy gauge or anything doing those, but they were showing Broly, like the big Broly as the boss, and was just blowing up everything. They were fighting in like this winter kind of Arctic setting with these big ice towers around they were hiding behind. They have something called Soul Assist. This lets you call in different iconic characters like Vegeta from the Saiyan Saga, which is an awesome version of Vegeta there. And you also have Soul Switch, and that lets you transform into different characters. So they showed Trunks, who was doing all kinds of stuff with the sword, the burning attack, just lighting up Broly. Although I will say that health bar, not dropping super fast, but this seems to be like one of the big bosses where you would have multiple people going against, so it has to be able to at least absorb some damage there. The maps are big and open, they're connected, so you kind of move between your missions, and it seems like there's a big emphasis on customization. And I mean, you expect that with Xenoverse. That's kind of the idea, where you build up your own character and build and set everything up as to how you want them to fight and battle. And like, you'd be someone who's up close and personal with melee attacks, or you want to sit back and just fire key blasts everywhere. It is releasing, though, 2027, PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC. And I think it looks really good. I guess the one thing I looked at, and I was like, the visuals don't necessarily feel like they're that much. I mean, again, I'd have to go back and, I guess, play Xenoverse. It's been a while for Xenoverse 2, but nothing here really stood out to me or jumped off the screen that was like, wow, this looks insane. But also, it's kind of that Dragon Ball art style, and you do wonder how much you can do with it before it gets too stylized and kind of away from the source material. To me, as long as the gameplay is on point, and it's a lot of fun to go through these different battles, and yeah, I mean, honestly, RNG your way to some awesome gear and moves, and just have fun with your friends in Dragon Ball. I think it's going to be a good time, and I'm certainly looking forward to Xenoverse 3 next year when it releases. But there were a slew of previews that went live, so I just wanted to make sure you know that. You can go check it out if you're excited for this game, because there's definitely a lot of information being shown off in some of the gameplay. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, Should Sony, Nintendo, or Xbox heavily curate their stores for low-quality games or leave them alone? 85% say to curate and remove low-quality games. 15% say leave stores alone. Now, I did see in the comments, and this is a great question and something I was hoping people would think about. What exactly constitutes low-quality games? Because you could have somebody who like legitimately works on the game by themselves, so they're not gonna have like the craziest graphics or something. And yeah, maybe it looks a little bit like a Flash game even. But it could have some pretty cool gameplay elements to it, and they legitimately put their heart and soul into it, and then Sony goes, hold on a minute, that looks like shovelware. You're like, thanks, Sony. But I think in this case, Sony is mostly identifying some of these publisher accounts that have hundreds and hundreds of games, and then you look at them and they all look the same. I think that's really what it is, but you're absolutely right when you say, okay, we need to make sure that there is at least a way to detect these correctly, because if Sony or Nintendo or whoever, right, where they, let's say, use AI algorithms or whatever to start identifying AI, which I know is ironic, but this is kind of how it would have to happen with this many games out there, and it just starts randomly pulling down games. That could be a problem for their storefront with the just overall even credibility of it, and if it's a good place to release your game in the first place. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Toasty, who says, the best move for me is to hunker down with the gaming equipment I have and let the AI wave pass, even if it takes an eternity to do so. Okay, so right now there, of course, all kinds of speculation. Analysts are trying to figure out when there can be some relief with the DRAM situation, the current squeeze that's on due to a lot of these AI data centers. And right now, the belief is that 2026, it's going to be rough. 2027, probably still going to be rough. But as we leave 2027 and go into 2028, there probably will be some relief. Now, how would that happen? Well, for one, there is actual like manufacturing for plants to just make more DRAM. That is currently a thing that's happening, but it takes years to bring more of these online to then add supply to right now a market that's desperate for it. The other is actually China, and that's the thing. So China right now seems to have the capacity to create DRAM chips, but it comes down to the quality and them sort of catching up to the rest of the market with this level of production. And that's the other thing is like by beginning of 2028, end of 2027, that supply will start to come online and enter the market. So it's kind of like a clashing of two different supply lines. And at that point, hopefully is able to at least alleviate somewhat. I still don't, it's also going to come down to how these AI data centers go, because let's say half of them end up really not turning out at all, then maybe that alone, the demand will fall, right? So it's just supply and demand, and the hope right now is that in the next year and a half, supply will at least be able to jump somewhat to meet that ridiculous and crushing demand. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you wanted to hear a little more from Valve when it comes to why they have the Steam Machine priced where it is. They did respond to that on their own website, and I did a video on that down below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.